All right, guys, we're out here on the lake today, and you know, there's a big craze going on where we're catching them out suspended fish on bait. And this is one of my favorite ways to catch them. You know, I'm out here using my electronics, but what I really love to do is I love using my 2D. I seem like everybody forgets about 2D. Like, it's one of the best tools on my boat for me when I'm doing this technique. I can run around the lake and I can see my 2D with my in-hole transducer while I'm, you know, running around. And what I've just noticed, I just idled all the way across this lake trying to find pods of bait. And what I have noticed this time of year, the water temp is warming up. A lot of the bait are starting to get inside the bays. Okay, we're gearing up for spawn, we're gearing up for a shad spawn, stuff like that. But even any time of year, like in December, I'm always looking for the bait. That's where you're gonna find the bass at. So you don't necessarily have to have side engine, down engine, and all this stuff on the back of your boat. You can just run 2D. I'm looking strictly for bait. And I'm taking a guess, wild guess, but I've just idled across the lake, and when I break inside this bay right here, I'm gonna start seeing bait. Okay, we're already starting to see some, but what I'm really wanting to find is where the mass majority of the bait is at, okay? Typically, that'll tell you a lot about how the lake is laying out at that time. So it's still kind of buried right through here. We're gonna ease on in and just see if we can see some more. And that's where they're probably gonna be at. You know, whether it's the fall or the winter time or even spring, as long as the fish are not on bed, they're typically on bait. And what I mean by that, they're out here chasing threadfin. And you know, they'll get up on these points and these flats, and now we have electronics to be able to find those fish. So it doesn't matter what time of year. You know, if I know that threadfin or just any kind of forage is out in the lake, wherever you find that at is where the bass are gonna be. So, you know, we're getting inside this pocket now, and I can already tell there's more bait inside the pockets. So if you think of this, of your lake on a macro scale of all of the bait in the whole lake, if you pinpoint where they're all gonna be at, whether it's in the pockets or, hey, they might be in north facing pockets with the wind blowing in them, you can run that pattern all over the lake. So we just slid inside the pocket. I'm seeing a lot more bait now. So we're gonna throw a troll motor down and see if we see some on it. You know, the water temp right now is 60. It's been rising. You know, we just got done with winter time, and I think this same thing applies for in the summertime. When the water cools down, a lot of the bait wants to get shallower. It gets out of that main lake. And we've just got done with the wintertime transition where they were out in the deeper water. Same thing they do in the summertime. Now they're starting to transition up shallow. The fish are wanting to slide up. It's 60 degrees. That's their comfort zone. They want to go wherever that warmer water is. So I'm starting to see a lot more bait inside the bays now. Earlier this year, it was complete opposite. There was no bait in these pockets, and you couldn't hardly get a bite, and they were all on the main lake. So now we just flip-flop. So if I had to give you any kind of tip, throw your boat in the water and idle and try to figure out where the mass majority of the bait is in that lake. Just like that, got in the pocket. Oh, okay. A little chunky boy right there on the Mooch Minnow. You know, guys, I idled across the lake over here, and pretty decent little fish. Idled across the lake over here, and I'm really just looking for, you know, the bait, the shad in this lake. And I noticed that a lot of them are starting to relate to these pockets. So I slid in here and, you know, I tied on a Mooch Minnow. This is a brand new bait from CrushCity. And something really unique about it, what you'll see is the way that tail is shaped, okay? Super subtle action. That's the key, okay? And when we designed this bait, we didn't really want it just to have a straight tail. There's so many straight tail minnows out there. We wanted something different. So when you drop this bait in the water, that tail is just back there jive. I mean, it's just shimmying. It's really, really subtle. if you look at a paddle tail, you know, I think you can catch some of these fish on a paddle tail swim bait or something, but a lot of that resistance when you're trying to make the bait fall it takes a lot of time. I want to get to these fish quick, but this can do that and have the same subtle action as a swim bait. And I can jig it also, but I don't necessarily have to. I can just reel it. I'm not sacrificing my fall speed with a tail, and this is what does that. Yeah, you know, what's cool about this bait also is it's made with super TPE, and it's really, really durable, okay? And, you know, I'll catch 10, 15 fish on one bait. That's what I love about it. It's saving me time. If I'm in here and there's a lot of fish around and I'm really trying to reel them in, use one bait. So let's get back out here and see if we can catch another one. All right, here comes two right here, boys. I do this a lot, and I consider myself really good at doing this, but it still takes me several pitches. You know, it's one of those deals where it ain't a guarantee. Look at them right there now. I got a good shot. I know exactly what direction they're going. Watch, they'll glow if they see it, just like that. See them glow? So it ain't about, let's see what we got here, boys. A decent spot. Now you catch another one on the Mooch Minnow. So the thing is, ain't a bad fish at all. Look at that. Ain't even got to touch the bait. You can catch 20 of them on it. But what I was saying is, it isn't about the quantity of cast you make when you're making, you know, when you're catching fish like this that are suspended. It's about the quality of the cast. If I'm really methodical about how I position my boat, I'm always paying attention where the fish is, their direction is going. So if they're coming toward me, I'm gonna take it real slow. You know, when I won on Toledo Bend, I think one of the biggest things that separated the whole day was paying attention to what the fish were doing, like what direction they're going, whether they're coming near me, swimming away. And I was very, very stealthy, and like I would make really precise, quick pitches. If you're in a tournament, that's everything. So I'm always trying to figure out exactly what direction they're going. That way I can present the bait best. So we got two more up here, and I know for a fact they're coming straight at me. So now I'm like, all right, there's actually three. They're coming at me. I know I better not mess this pitch up because I'm only gonna have one or two shots. Picked one off. Picked one off, baby. Oh. Okay. There we go, baby. Look at that, barely on top of the mouth. Let me get you. Come here, baby. Come here. Look at that. I'm talking skin hooked, y'all. That is awesome. So I've got a 3.0 VMC Redline jig head on here. These are new. They're a tungsten head, okay? This is a 3/0, a little bit longer. You just seen why I use that longer version right there. And this is on the Mooch Minnow, but I barely had that fish skin hooked, literally right there. And God, these are new jig heads from VMC, and they are freaking awesome, man. The hook size, that's a big deal. You don't want a heavy gauge hook, because we're using light line, we're using 12-pound line. So it's got a really good gauge on it, and it's a tungsten head, so it's a lot smaller. This is actually a 3/8 ounce head. So a lead head is gonna be a lot bigger, but the tungsten is a lot smaller profile. You know, going into profiles, I've got 4 different rods up here, and they all have different weights. It's all different profiles. It all depends on how deep the fish are. So there's some out here suspended that are in like 12 to 14 foot, 3/8 ounce head. Okay, let's say it gets a little bit sunnier, they get deeper. I got a heavier head, a little bit bigger profile. If they're shallower, I got a light, really light 1/8 ounce head on a mare, the really light head, and a little bit smaller bait. It feels like that gets me way more bites. So I'll pick this rod up right here, for example. So that is a freeloader. Everybody knows about the freeloader, but I'll have him on. Let's say I've got one big solo fish up there and he's in like 7 foot. And I know he's significantly bigger, and I'm like, I really think he'll bite that freeloader. It's a lot bigger profile for a lot bigger fish. So having different profiles is a big deal, especially around the size bait that you're in. Always pay attention to what they're spitting up when they come in the boat. All right, guys, I was talking about profile of your bait, okay? I've actually got the real thing right here. So as you can tell, these are not really big shad. I mean, they're smaller profile. I mean, they're 2.5 inches, and that's what this mayor is, a 2.5 inch, okay? So that's really matching the hatch. All right, I'm catching them on a mooch minnow too, but if you notice, the mooch minnow doesn't have a really thick profile. It's very kind of subtle, has a really long, subtle tail. And now fishing pressure, you know, that's a big deal, and these fish are smart. So having the right size profile with the right action and being able to tinker with your baits and see which one is a high percentage bait is key. You know, if I get 5 bites on one bait versus 10, you know. So pay attention to the size of the forage and adjust from there. This time of year in particular, a lot of these fish, they do the same thing this time of year as they do in the winter time. Before they go winter, they're feeding up for the spawn. Sorry, excuse me, one interrupted me. So I've really tried to be very versatile. And the biggest thing for me while I'm using my electronics doing this is it shows me a pattern on the lake. I mean, like I can run around this lake right now and I can say, all right, they're on the windy banks, they're on the windy pockets, and you know there's wind blowing in there, or there may be a little dinge flowing in and out of this creek, and I'm like, okay, the bait is relating to that dinge. So I get a pattern going based off using my electronics, based off a bite. It's always about putting the puzzle together. So when I'm out here, you know, looking for fish, I'm getting a pattern going for the day. I'm not necessarily just reeling one in. I'm thinking the whole time like, hey, what's the water temp in here? Is it a little bit dingier? Oh, okay. And then I'm thinking, all right, 3 pockets up from here, there's a run in that creek. They're probably gonna be in there because there's dingy water. Key element, the bait's in there. So right now you can see, look at all this. All the bait's in the back of this pocket. Now we've caught one. Let's say I pull in here and catch a 4-pounder. I can zoom out on my graph. All right, we're at the very back end of this drain. I'm looking right now. Okay, here we go. Very back end of a drain. I've went to the mouth. These fish are now transitioning to the backs. So I'm gonna run that drain. I'm gonna move out. I'll run the back of this drain to see if they're in the very backs. So it's cool to watch these fish migrate. And I never used to think that fish migrated. Like you always used to think that salmon migrated up these streams and stuff. Bass migrate big time. The shad migrates, the bass go with them. Let's see if we can catch a real big one in here. I'm not fully convinced yet that the big ones are doing this, but I do want to check and make sure that I ain't missing. Oh, he's seen it. Got him. Little acrobat action, boys. Look at that. God, I love that. Oh, I love that. That sucker jumped like a smallmouth. Look at that. Mooch minnow to the jaws. God, I love fishing. That's him right there, boys. All right, we're gonna try to catch a big one. All right, so I've caught a lot of fish, okay, in this bay. I'll let you go, baby. So I've caught a lot of fish in this bay, but I haven't seen a lot of really big ones. So I'm thinking a lot of these are males. You know, it's that time of year, the males are starting to slide up. So we're gonna slide back to the mouth and see if we can get on some size and try to get on a pattern for the big ones. There's a lot of numbers in that area right back there. Yeah, you know, the size difference from what I've noticed is when I get out toward the mouth, okay, using forward-facing sonar, I can tell, you know, a lot of these fish have been swimming in. You know, I've been behind them, so that tells me they're starting to move in. I'm gonna slide out, tip it. It's the same textbook deal. Let's say you're in Florida and you're flipping and you're catching small one, you know, buck bass. You're waiting on those big females to come in. A lot of times they're staging out at the mouths of these pockets to go in, and they're just out there on bait doing the same thing. So let's slide out and see if we can get on some big ones. Oh, it's like a big one. That is a big one. Oh my gosh, she's digging at the boat. That is better right there, boys. That is way better right there, baby. Oh my gosh. Come here, baby. Oh God. Dude, that's a big one. Oh, she's hot. Don't do it, don't you do it, come here. Oh my gosh. Dude, that is a big spot right there, boys. Come over here, come over here, come over here, come over here. Cool. Slid out to the mouth of the pocket. And we done caught a tank, son. God. Look at that. Unbelievable. On the Mooch Minnow. I could tell they were bigger on the graph. I was like, gosh, dude, that's like a 4.5 pounder. Unbelievable. Boom. On the Mooch Minnow. Pay attention to the profile of the bait. Figure out what area of the lake you're getting a lot bigger bites. So we were catching a lot of small fish in the back. We slid out to the mouth. Oh, Betsy was out here on the Moochie. So I love it. I love it.